This week on the Computer Chronicles, a hands-on demo of Windows 95. A visit to the Win95 launch with Bill Gates and Jay Leno. Some advice on how to learn how to use the new version of Windows, a sneak preview of 2 new Win95 applications, a guide to online help for Windows 95, and this week's computer news. All coming up next on the Computer Chronicles.
Computer Chronicles is made possible in part by Hewlett-Packard, working with industry leaders to ensure compatibility across the board and across the network. HP PCs, you're looking at partnership in a whole new light.
The Computer Chronicles is also made possible by the Software Publishers Association, providers of educational materials to help manage software. Don't copy that floppy.
Hi, and welcome to the Computer Chronicles. I'm Stuart Chaffee. Unless you've been asleep somewhere for the last few months, you no doubt know that Windows 95 is upon us. Several million people have already bought the Win95 upgrade, but most computer users are still thinking about it. Should you buy it? Is it worth the $89? And how will your PC life be better if you have Windows 95? These are the questions we'll try to answer for you today. First of all, let's take a look at some of the features of Windows 95, and for that we brought in an expert, Joe Fabris of Microsoft. Welcome, Joe.
Hi, Stuart.
All right, here's Win95, and obviously, first of all, it looks different. I don't see my usual program manager, my little windows. Tell me what's going on here.
Well, we combined the program manager and the file manager into a single uniform desktop, and that's what we see here, where I've got an icon representing my computer and all its peripherals, network connection, and other folders and icons that I can add as I customize it.
All right, so the big thing is bottom left, the Start button, which is kind of intuitive. I want to start doing something, so I click on Start, and show me how I launch a program in Win95.
Sure. If you click on the Start button, you'll find there is an icon called the Programs over here. And this is where everything that you had in your old program manager has gone to when you start Windows for the first time under Windows 95.
All right, in that first window that opens up, I can customize that too and determine what will show up when I click Start, right?
Exactly. Everything above the program is a customization that I've done prior to coming in today.
All right, so I want to run a program, so I drill down there in the menus.
And I'll go over to Microsoft Office.
Okay.
This is Office for Windows 95. And I'll launch Excel simply by clicking on it one time.
All right, so Excel is up and running now. And what happens if I want to run a second program, or I want to do something else while Excel is running?
That's one thing that Windows has always been good at, and now it's gotten better. In fact, this time what I'd like to do is, instead of trying to go find an application and run a document, I like to find a document and run an application. So I'll go over here to the Documents menu on the Start button, which keeps track of the last 15 or so applications that you ran. And
So
I'll
it
go
keeps
here.
track of the last 15 things I did, regardless of what application it was, not just in Excel or not just in Word.
Right, and it doesn't matter whether it was on your machine or on a network
Okay.
drive, it'll go and find it. So I'll
So
click
you
on
want to
this
open
one.
that memo.
Right. So now that's going to go find Word, launch Word, and then get the document and open it together.
All right, now I've got both things running. If I want to go back to Excel and click on Excel, Word disappears. Now, that's a problem you fixed, basically, from the old Windows, right?
Our usability lab showed that when people would go click on something like Excel here, Word would vanish from the screen and they had no idea where it
went.
went.
Is it up and running, and should I open it again?
Exactly. That's why we've added at the bottom of the screen something called the taskbar, which keeps track of all the applications you have running. So if I can go back to Word now by clicking on it on the taskbar.
Okay, let's talk about file management now and how I do things like copy files and move files in Win95.
Okay, I'll go back to the Start button, and I'll click on my computer. And now we'll get that view I said of all my peripherals. And here we see I have a floppy drive and my hard drive. And let's move some files from the floppy drive. So I'll double-click here, and I'll just choose all of these items. And I'm going to drag them over to my hard disk.
So you can just drag and drop and do it that way.
And I use the second mouse button on Windows, and here I have some options. I can move them, I can copy them, or I can create a shortcut. And a shortcut would leave the original files where they were, but just put an icon there so I could go to a place where I often go for a shortcut, launch the application, and it could be on a network drive somewhere else, or it could be on a floppy drive. But that's what a shortcut does. I'll just do a quick copy over there.
Okay. Now there's another thing when I go in the store looking for Windows 95 called Microsoft Plus. What does Plus add to Win95?
Okay, well you saw when we started how I had that nice Windows background with my icons looking a certain way. The Plus has a lot of things, and I'm going to focus on the fun things. And if I go to the control panel, we have a new icon added here when the Plus gets installed. called Desktop Themes. And if I launch this, we'll see that I can now change the way my screen and my computer looks, and I can have it fit sort of my mood and have some pre-built themes that Microsoft's put together here with some graphic artists, like Dangerous Creatures or Leonardo da Vinci. I was down at the Hate District last night visiting my sister, and this one called The 60s reminds me of that, so if I'm in that mood today, I can click on that and have it on the screen.
So you can sort of customize your desktop day by day depending on what you feel like. Sort of
Exactly.
Designer desktop.
Yep, and then what it'll do is it'll change the background to something that looks like the 60s, and then we'll see new icons. I have a peace sign for my computer and beads for the network neighborhood, and all my sounds now have changed as well.
All right, now Plus, a lot of people are getting Plus because it comes with a pretty cool 3D pinball game, right? Can we see what that looks like?
Exactly. I'll launch the pinball game right now, and you'll see a nice pinball table, and we'll start a game up. We'll have all the pinball sounds that we expect, and you'll see some pretty good graphic animation that's getting improvement in Windows 95 as well.
Yeah. Okay, let's get out of this, and let me ask you about autoplay. Now, another feature in here is if you've got a CD-ROM drive, it automatically launches whatever CD you stick in?
Exactly. In fact, I've got one right here that I picked up the other day, and this is a music CD that I bought at Tower Records. And when I put it in, the machine automatically detects that I put a CD in, and now will launch the application that plays music, and then it'll start the songs that are on this disc.
So it not only detects you put a CD in, but it knows it's a music CD, and so it's going to launch the audio player program, whatever that is, not the CD-ROM.
Exactly.
And this is a new piece of Microsoft Music you guys own now, I guess.
Well, we're having some fun with it. Yes, we are.
Okay, thank you very much, Joe.
It's been my pleasure.
Okay, Windows 95 is, after all, just an operating system and a user interface, but the launch of the product was choreographed more like a Hollywood movie premiere than a software title. In case you missed it, here's what it was like in Redmond, Washington, the day Windows 95 was finally released.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jay Leno.
No, it's not The Tonight Show. Bill Gates invited Jay Leno to launch Windows 95 at this Hollywood-style event at Microsoft headquarters.
Well, Windows 95 is so easy, even a talk show host can figure it out.
You got your taskbar, let's go right down there. Little taskbar there, you can click on there, you see, and I can change my mind. Do I go over here? This one too? I can change my mind faster than Bill Clinton. Look at that, huh? Healthcare, no healthcare. Republican today, Democrat tomorrow. Sure, there you go. Just flip it back and forward. Back and forward. Easy as pie-ola. That's a technical term.
There were video testimonials by corporate users as well as home users.
I tape the CD, put it in, click it on the computer, and the big circle comes, and then the bird comes.
Members of the audience were pulled backstage to upgrade from Windows 3.1 to Windows 95 during the gala. The site was connected via satellite to an audience in an amusement park in the Silicon Valley, and the now widely recognized Start Me Up commercial previewed here. The big screen came down to reveal the development team. The audience made its way past them to the circus tents filled with more than 300 applications developed for Windows 95. For the Computer Chronicles, I'm Giles Bateman.
Now, you've all heard the horror stories about what you're going to have to spend to run Windows 95. More RAM, bigger hard drive, new keyboard, maybe a processor upgrade. Let's try to figure out what you really do need to run the new version of Windows. Here to help us out, a syndicated columnist, author, and all-around PC expert, Larry Magid. Welcome, Larry.
Thank you.
Before we get to the toys here, let's talk about installing Windows 95. What should you do to your PC before you start to install it?
Well, the first thing you should do is back up. At very least, back up your important data files, because those you can't replace.
Because you can never tell what's going to happen during that install.
Absolutely. You never know, even though most of the time it goes fine.
Okay.
The next thing you want to do is get rid of any viruses you might have. Make sure you've got a nice, clean system. Disable any of your TSRs or anything that's kind of, quirky, so that when the Windows 95 installation program starts running, it's got a fairly vanilla, ordinary system to deal with. Then, after you've done all that, make sure you've got plenty of space in your hard drive, because that's critical, because Windows 95 is going to use every nook and cranny you've got.
All right, let's talk about that now. First of all, let's talk RAM before we talk hard drive, and we hear that you really can't run Win95 if you have a 4-megabyte machine, right?
In theory, you can, but then a family of 4 could live in a one-bedroom apartment, theoretically. In reality, whatever the rules were for Windows 3.1, you double them. The rule, Windows 3.1, 4 megs minimum. Windows 95, for all practical purposes, 8 megabytes is your minimum system. if you want a really nice system with plenty of room to grow, 16 megabytes is really excellent. That's what I use. If you're a heavy power user and you've got a lot of CAD CAM or big graphic images, then you probably want to go to 32 megabytes. Believe it or not, that's what the power users are doing these days.
Let's talk about the RAM upgrade options, and we have a couple of them over here. First of all, this PC MCIA card, and I guess if you have a laptop and you have a PC slot, you can just stick that in and
absolutely. If you get an extra slot and you can afford it, that's a great, easy way to do it.
Okay, now sometimes you don't have a slot, and I guess these are sort of little mini SIM.
Right, they fit in the, usually there's a little door in the back of your laptop and you turn it off and plug those in. They're pretty easy to install and they do the job.
And for the typical desktop user, you've got your regular PC. This is the normal.
Right, you can get up to 16 megabytes of memory on one of these little, they're called a SIM modular, and they just plug right into the motherboard, and they're fairly easy to install. If you know how to take your computer apart, if you're comfortable, you can do it yourself. If you're not, it's a 10,
Let's do that right here. We have a PC open, and we'll just lift this power supply and get it out of the way. And these are your RAM slots right in here, right?
That's right, and you'd have an empty one, and you just pop it in there and clip it down and turn on the machine. If all goes well, you've got to do memory.
It's not too, you don't have to be afraid to do that.
No, the only thing is make sure you touch the chassis to discharge any electricity, static you may, before you touch one of these components. Other than that, you're fine.
Let's get back to the hard drive issue you mentioned. Windows 95 takes up a lot of space on your hard drive. Most of us don't have a lot of space left over on our hard drive. What are the options then to get more hard drive space?
Well, of course, you could always buy another hard drive, and eventually you can do compression. But the main thing you want to do, it's like cleaning out your garage. You probably have more space than you realize, because you probably have a lot of junk on your machine, programs that you haven't used in months. Go ahead and delete them, and then you get into the issue, how do you delete them? Well, if you really know what you're doing, you could delete them manually, but even if you took out the directory that all the programs are in, there's always extra files sitting around, there's always statements in your Win
Certainly if you had Win 3.1 on your machine.
Especially with Win 3.1, so that's where we have all these commercial uninstall programs. Now, sort of the mother of all uninstall programs is called Uninstaller for Microhelp. And we actually
you have that up here now?
Have it running here, and what we're doing here is we're actually in the process of looking at a program that we want to get rid of. We want to get rid of, let's say, not that we would want to get rid of ClarisWorks. We'd click on this, we'd push Analyze, and then the program would start analyzing what it has to do, and it would go ahead and not only delete the files, but clean up the WinINI program file and just get the machine so it's as if that program were never there. Now, eventually, you're not going to need this because Windows 95 has an uninstall program built in, but it only works with Windows 95 applications. So for the present time, you're really going to need a program like this. Eventually, it's going to be an operating system
when you
function.
want to install Win96, you'll have the problem solved with Win95.
Exactly.
All right, last thing we hear, there are special keyboards out now for Windows 95, and we have one of them over here. And show me what's so special about this. Why might I want a separate keyboard for Win95?
Well, you don't need a separate keyboard. I mean, you can function fine without one.
But we got, for instance, here's this little funny Windows key over here. What does that do?
If you're buying a keyboard, you get one of these and you push it, and what it does is it brings up the start menu. It's just like if you'd press the start menu. So it just makes it easier. And there's another one over on this side.
And what's that little Windows
button? Well, it's programmable. If it's just Microsoft, it does the same thing. But in this particular one, it actually brings up a special task switching menu to make it just easier to change tasks. And then we have another one here, which is the same as pushing the right mouse button, which, oh, here we go. It brought up another little window, just as if you'd pushed the right mouse button.
I mean, it's not essential, but it makes it easier maybe.
Makes it easier. If you're buying a new keyboard, it's something to look for.
Right. All right, Larry, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
All right, so let's say you decide to buy Windows 95. There is a learning curve. It's not the same as Windows 3.1, certainly not the same as MS-DOS. You have to figure out how to use it if you're going to get your money's worth. So let's take a look at your options for getting up to speed on Windows 95.
The screens may look familiar, but they are not quite the same. There are new icons, new menus, and there's a new way to organize files. For a single user, Windows 95 means establishing some new habits, and for technical support staff, it means answering a lot of questions. One way to prepare yourself for the changeover is to put the manual aside and go back to school, Windows 95 School.
So far, we've been focusing mostly on the technical end of things because people are just getting started in rolling out Windows 95, and the companies are trying to learn as much as they can about how the operating system works within their company. So they're sending people to the technical training classes in order to learn and understand it very well before they go ahead and give it to their end users.
The class approach appeals to people who either don't have the time or just don't like to read manuals. It's kind of a shortcut to the program's main features.
So even if you go through and you learn on your own, which I'm sure that lots of people will probably have to do, the tips, the tricks, things that will ultimately save you time in the long stretch, that's what you get out of class. And the interaction between having someone answer your questions as opposed to your having to either call support hotline or trying to look it up through the help screen. Those are useful, but again, they're time consuming. So I think if you're looking for a way to save time, come to class.
Classes are attractive for users who are short on time and can afford the fees, but for some brave souls, a book and sheer persistence can accomplish the same goals, if they have the patience.
You get to know your computer a little bit more because you're figuring out how to set something up, because you're not just going to set up Windows 95 on your computer, you're going to set up all kinds of different programs that you're going to need. So it gave me like a sense of accomplishment when I finally got it to work. I was like jumping up and down and I was all excited about it. But I think some of the minuses is it can be very frustrating. You know, when you have a question, you have to refer to a book for an answer.
For the Computer Chronicles, I'm Giles Bateman.
Now, the bottom line with any operating system is what can you do with it? How will it make your applications run better? Just about every software maker is busy cranking out new Win95 versions of their programs so you can take advantage of the extra juice in Windows 95. Here to show us two examples of brand new Win95 apps are Jeff Rona of 3DI and also over there Kevin Goldberg of Trimark. Let's start with you, Jeff, and you have a program called Trispectives. And first of all, what's important about Win95 to this 3D design program?
Well, our program really isn't able to do anything without the power that's behind a 32-bit application like Windows 95. Its multi-threading capabilities allow us to render faster, move objects interactively quickly, and overall speed performances that just weren't available in Windows 3.1.
Right, you have some neat examples now, so show us a little bit of the program and what it does.
Right. We can actually create 3D models interactively. And with the power of 32-bit application, we can continue moving those. We have a 3D page that we've developed, and on this 3D page we can actually go back in and show you some of the features where we have in our graphics package. We can do animation and room design, layout, graphics capabilities that you'd find in other packages. Here we'll show you our drag and drop animation. We'll ship the product with over 1,000 IntelliShape 3D models, which are like intelligent clip art. We simply drag out of a catalog and the model is created instantly and put into the scene.
So that's 3D clip art.
We call it IntelliShapes. They're actually, they have intelligent properties. They know how to land and slide over one another. That makes it more intuitive for a user in a drag and drop.
And the fact is you can animate these things essentially.
Exactly.
Right?
So now I'll just go into our animation catalogs, make a spin move on the Earth and a spin move there. We'll turn on our smart motions and click play, and we have a real-time animation sequence that can be exported out to an AVI file if you wish for use in something like PowerPoint or in MediaPlay.
All right, what else can we do with this?
For many customers, many people are looking into virtual reality. Here we've got a room scene that we've set up. We can actually do a walk-through camera angle to go into our room, and we can turn ourselves around so we get the back view. And then for creation, we can actually drag and drop more of those models into this. So we have a table and chair. And the table knows how to land on its legs. The chair knows how to land.
That's the intelligent shape. It knows where it belongs.
Exactly. So even if we move it on the floor, across the floor. We can also position it using a new feature we have called a tri-ball. And here we'll just move the center, and with just a simple mouse click, we can actually replicate this 3 times and create scenes very quickly. Again, something you wouldn't really be able to do in a non-32-bit application. Now we can save that scene out actually as a VRML file or a Visual Basic Text file for the models, AVI files, JPEG, and the rest of the standards.
Trispectives 3D design with Win95.
Yes.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, let's see what Windows 95 does for a game now. And I'll interrupt Kevin in the middle of playing The Hive. And tell us about the game, Kevin.
Well, what Windows 95 gave us is the ability to do pan-interactive sequences as well as streaming animation on top of them, something that we couldn't have done before. And I'll jump right into gameplay.
Tell us what's going on in the game here while you're playing.
Well, I've just landed on an ocean platform, and the object is to basically blow these guys away. You can hear I'm doing pretty well. This is a standard rail sequence where your motion is predetermined. And if you get far enough along, I'll be able to show you a panoractive sequence where you become stationary and the sprites move around you in a 360 degree. And you can see we're now in that panoractive. I'm controlling the motion, seamless branching between the two, and without Windows 95, we couldn't have done it.
Very cool. All right, it's called the Hive.
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot. All right, you've no doubt heard about the new Microsoft Network, MSN, which comes with Windows 95. If you want help or more information on Windows 95, there are in fact a lot of online sites where you can find it. So let's check out this week's Net News with Giles Bateman.
Thanks, Stuart. I think the best place to start is to go straight to the source. Here I am at Microsoft's own Windows website, and here I can get Windows 95 general information, tech information and support, free software, and more. But I think of more interest to online users is the Microsoft Network. And if you have access to a web browser and the internet, you can actually check out MSN before you ever sign up for it. You just go to the MSN website and you can click About MSN, and well, you can learn what's on MSN today, and there are more things you can do, but you can get a general feel for it before you ever become a member. Now, if you're not on the internet, or perhaps you're on an online service and you're not used to using the internet, remember the word Win News. That's W-I-N-N-E-W-S. There are two N's in the middle and there's no space in between it. Now, on just about any service, it's Go Win News or Jump Win News. I think only on Genie you do a, move to page 95. So that's the only one that's different. The other thing you'll want to remember is the Win95L mailing list. Now, just follow the instructions you see here, and you will get actual hardcore hands-on information from Windows 95 users themselves.
Now time for our weekly summary of what's new in the field of personal computing. Let's go to Studio E for this week's computer news.
In the random access file this week, it's a Pentium world. Computer Intelligence Info Corp reports that Pentiums now represent 53% of all new PCs sold. 486-based PCs are dying out, and estimates are that by December, 486s will account for less than 25% of the market. But just as the Pentium begins to dominate, Intel has announced P6, the next generation microprocessor. They've given it an official name, the Pentium Pro. P6 machines are due out later this year. The Pentium Pro has 5.5 million transistors on the chip. Compact's new PCs are coming standard with MPEG video capability. Compaq is also bundling in 3D surround sound and a speech recognition voicemail system. IBM is also making its new Aptivas more multimedia friendly. The new models just out this week feature a special video chip called M-Wave that also enables smooth full motion video and duplex sound. If you're looking for a Mac clone, Power Computing has announced its first retail deal for the Power 100, one of the first officially licensed Mac compatibles. They'll be on sale at Computer City stores around the country. In the fast-changing world of the Internet, domain names are no longer free. Network Solutions, the company that registers net domains, says effective immediately, there will be a $50 annual fee to register. Domain names are being listed at the rate of $14,000 a month. Netscape says it will soon be out with a new software package that makes it easy to create your own web page. It's called Navigator Gold 2.0. It will be available free on the net at the end of October and will go on sale in January. But two UC Berkeley graduate students say they have found a security gap in Netscape's web browser. They say a knowledgeable computer user can break their existing security code in a minute. Netscape has acknowledged the problem and said a fix is on the way. If you're trying to find a new CD-ROM title and don't know where to look, check out the new CD-ROM database on CompuServe. The new section called CD-ROM Base Online lists nearly 10,000 current CD-ROM titles, including description, price, and publisher. You may be using a Microsoft mouse or a Microsoft keyboard, but now Gates & Company are getting into the joystick business. MS has announced a new joystick optimized for Windows 95. It features 8 buttons and new digital optical technology for faster response time. It's called the Sidewinder 3D Pro, and it sells for under $60. And finally, if you're really a geek, check this out, website morsepr.com. It will let you follow brick by brick the construction of Bill Gates' new $50 million mansion. The website features aerial views of the 40,000 square foot home and detailed shots of various parts of the house, like the 50-car garage and the underwater pool stereo system. The page was put up by the Morse McFadden PR company. Well, that's it for this week's computer news. Stuart?
Before we wrap things up, let me tell you about one terrific program I found. If you like computer games and you've always wanted to write your own games, but you don't have time to become a C++ programmer, there is a great package out called Click and Play from an English company named Europress. This is a brilliant, object-oriented, point-and-click programming tool for game makers. It comes with 10 games written in the Click and Play language, and you can go inside and see exactly how the games work, and you can modify them to suit your tastes. This is one of the neatest software packages I have come across in a long time. Click and Play runs under Windows. It sells for about $50, and it's distributed by Maxis. That's it for this week's Computer Chronicles. We'll be back here next week with another half hour of the latest in personal computer technology. I'm Stuart Chaffee. We'll see you here next time.
Computer Chronicles is made possible in part by Hewlett-Packard, developing technology that lets you manage your PC from anywhere on the network, anywhere in the world. HP PCs, you're taking a close look at remote management.
The Computer Chronicles is also made possible by the Software Publishers Association, providers of educational materials to help manage software. Don't copy that floppy. Videotape copies of all Computer Chronicle shows are available for $32.50. Please order by show number and topic. And for more detailed information about the series, guests, and products featured, you can also order a subscription to the Chaffee Letter. In each issue, Stuart provides his unique insights and thoughts about the fast-changing world of personal technology. Videotapes and the Chaffee Letter can be ordered by calling 1-800-800-9520 or by writing us at the Computer Chronicles.